All right. Welcome in, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, as requested by you, we're going to be looking at Dele Farotimi,
Okay.
a Nigerian lawyer and activist.
All right.
And we're going to be using his YouTube video titled The Walk to Freedom as our source material.
Interesting.
Now, this one, I'm really excited about this
Yeah.
because he has a very unique perspective, I think, on the state of Nigeria today and what it means to be a citizen.
Yeah, I think Dele Farotimi is someone who, really is not afraid to speak truth to power.
Well, he calls himself the senior accused of Nigeria.
Right. And, there's that sort of humor,
Yeah.
like grim humor.
Yeah, I chuckled when I saw that.
But it's defiant.
Yeah.
He was arrested and detained.
Right. Senior 11, they called him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so this is him taking that label and sort of owning it.
Yeah.
But in a way that's also like, I'm still here.
Yeah.
You haven't silenced me.
And he goes on to talk about the outpouring of support that he received when he was detained.
Yeah, and that's really something.
Yeah.
He mentions visits from prominent figures.
Yeah.
Rallies organized by groups like the African Action Congress, and just a groundswell of people saying, let him go.
Yeah. He talks about how the prison almost became like a tourist center
Yeah.
because there were so many people there advocating for his release.
Yeah, and I think you can really feel that in his words.
Yeah.
Like how important that was to him
Oh, absolutely.
to have that support.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to something larger than just him.
Yeah.
It's about this collective action, right? Like when people come together to say, no, this is wrong,
Yeah.
we're not going to let you silence dissent.
Yeah, and it's interesting because later on he talks about this court order prohibiting him from speaking to the press.
Yeah.
He quotes the provision and it says, an order restraining the defendant from addressing the press or granting any interviews on any matter whatsoever connected with this case.
Right.
So as a lawyer, he's aware.
And this is where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand,
Yeah.
he's bound by that court order.
Yeah.
But on the other hand,
Yeah.
he still has his fundamental right to free speech.
Yeah, and that's...
So how do you navigate that?
Exactly.
How do you balance those two things?
Yeah, and this is where I think it's important to understand the context of Nigeria.
Mhm.
You know, we've talked before about how some of these legal provisions can be used
Yeah.
to stifle freedom of expression.
Right, to silence critics of the government.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there's this real tension
Yeah.
between upholding the law and protecting basic human rights.
Yeah, and he really grapples with that throughout the video.
Well, he uses this really interesting analogy.
Oh, yeah.
He compares himself to a porcupine
Uh-huh.
facing predators. And at first he thinks he's the one with the quills
Right.
defending himself
Yeah.
against the establishment.
Uh-huh.
But then he has this realization and he says, the porcupine is not me. The porcupine is the people.
I love that.
Yeah. What do you make of that shift?
I think it's really profound.
Yeah.
Because he goes from feeling like he's alone in this
Yeah.
to recognizing the power of collective action.
Yeah.
And it's not just about him,
Uh-huh.
right? It's about this shared struggle for justice.
And that struggle really leads him to talk about what it means to be a citizen.
Yeah.
He says something really bold.
Yeah, what is it?
He says, we are not citizens in this country. We are subjects.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what do you think he means by that?
Well, I think he's challenging the idea that just because you live within a country's borders,
Yeah.
that automatically makes you a citizen.
Right. Like it's more than just a legal status.
Yeah, exactly. He's saying it requires the rule of law, it requires the protection of individual rights, and it requires this sense of belonging.
Right. That you have a say
Yeah.
in how your country is run.
And that without those things,
Yeah.
you're not a citizen, you're a subject.
Yeah. You're just under the control of
Yeah.
powers that you have no real influence over.
And he goes on to say the question is, what are you going to do about it?
Woo.
So it's not just an observation,
That's-
it's a call to action.
Yeah, he's challenging every Nigerian
Yeah.
to stand up and say,
Yeah.
we deserve better.
Yeah, we demand our rights.
You want to be citizens, not subjects.
Exactly. And I
Okay,
just
like-
makes this video so powerful.
Yeah.
It's not just a recounting of his experiences.
Mm.
It's a call for change.
It is. And it will be really interesting to see how this unfolds,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
what he does next and how people respond to his call to action.
Absolutely. And we'll be diving into all of that in the next part of this deep dive.
Can't wait.
So stay tuned.
All right.
We'll
Yeah.
be right back after the break.
And it's not just talk. He's actually taking action.
Right.
He talks about pursuing legal redress.
Yeah. against those involved in his abduction.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice of words, right?
It is very pointed.
It is. He doesn't say arrest.
Yeah.
He says abduction.
Yeah, and I think he's doing that very deliberately.
Oh, absolutely.
He's challenging the legitimacy of his detention.
Right. He's saying this wasn't a lawful arrest.
Yeah.
This was an attempt to silence me.
To intimidate.
Exactly.
And I think by taking legal action,
Yeah,
he's setting a precedent.
he is.
It's about holding those in power accountable,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even paving the way
Yeah.
for others who have been targeted.
And it's a form of activism in itself,
It is.
right? Because he's using the legal system
Yeah.
to try to expose the flaws
Uh-huh.
and to push for greater transparency.
Yeah, and he says, you do not recall a bullet when it is fired.
Wow.
I cannot be silenced.
Powerful.
So he's not backing down,
No, he's not.
despite the risks.
Yeah, he understands that silence is what they want.
Right, they want to silence him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's refusing to give them that.
He's not going to let him win.
And he doesn't just focus on his own case.
Right.
He brings up other high-profile cases.
Like who?
Like El Zagzaki,
Oh, yeah.
the leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria.
Right, who's been detained for years.
Yeah, without trial.
Without trial.
So he's connecting his struggle
Yeah.
to this larger fight for human rights.
Right. He's saying this is not just about me.
Yeah.
There are so many others
Yeah.
who are suffering under this system.
And he talks about those proprietors of a school in Kano
Oh, yeah.
who were accused of blasphemy.
Right, and face threats of violence.
And he says, what have they done to deserve to be in prison?
He's drawing a parallel there
He is.
between their case and his.
Yeah, he's saying this is all connected.
About this broader issue.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
injustice and the abuse of power.
And the need for solidarity.
Yeah.
We have to stand up for each other.
Yeah. Right. And he acknowledges that Nigerians themselves
Oh, yeah.
have played a role in this.
What does he say?
He says, we made this mess together, and it will take all of us to resolve it.
What do you think he means by that?
I think he's talking about the dangers of apathy
Yeah.
and division.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying that the government has exploited these
yeah.
religious and ethnic
Yeah,
differences.
to divide and conquer.
Yeah, to weaken the people.
Exactly.
And he says they divided us, and we fell for it.
So what's the solution then?
Unity.
Okay.
He's calling for Nigerians to come together.
Yeah, to recognize their common goals.
Yeah.
And to work together.
And he brings back that porcupine analogy.
Oh, yeah.
He says it wasn't his legal expertise or his own courage that protected him.
Mm-hmm.
It was the collective voice of the people.
The porcupine.
Yeah, he says, Nigeria couldn't happen to me because you spoke.
Wow.
So it's about the power of collective action,
Yeah, even in a system like Nigeria's.
even when it seems impossible.
Right, when you feel powerless.
Well, when people come together
Yeah.
and speak out,
They can make a difference.
they can force change.
And what is it that he wants them to change?
He wants them to demand true citizenship
Okay.
with all the rights and protections.
So what does that look like?
The rule of law,
Mm-hmm.
holding those in power accountable,
Yeah.
working together to create a just and equitable society.
Ambitious.
It is.
But is it possible?
Well, he thinks so.
Yeah.
He says it's the only way to ensure a future
Yeah.
where all Nigerians are truly free and equal.
And he even mentions those who want to separate.
Yeah, those who want to create their own homelands.
Right.
He acknowledges their aspirations,
Yeah.
but he says we need to establish true citizenship first.
So he's not dismissing their desire for self-determination,
Oh,
but he's saying
but he
it
says...
has to be built on a foundation of justice
Yeah.
and equality for all.
Exactly. He envisions a Nigeria
Mm-hmm.
where the people have the power to decide their own future.
Whether that means staying together
Yeah.
or forming separate nations.
Exactly. And that's a powerful vision.
It is.
But how realistic is it?
Right. Given all the challenges Nigeria faces,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a long road.
It is.
But I think Farotimi's message
yeah.
offers a glimmer of hope.
It does.
You know, he shows us
Yeah.
that change is possible
When people refuse to be silenced.
when they come together
Yeah.
and demand their rights.
Exactly. His journey may have just begun,
Mm-hmm.
but his words and actions
Yeah.
are an inspiration for
Yeah.
anyone who's fighting for a better world.
For a more just and equitable world.
Exactly. So he's saying, look, we need to figure out this whole citizenship thing
Yeah.
before we even start talking about,
Right.
staying together or splitting apart.
Yeah, we need a
We
foundation
need that foundation.
of justice.
Yeah, where everyone has a voice.
Exactly.
When everyone has a say.
Where everyone feels like they belong.
Yeah, and he's not naive.
No.